Academy.
I know you want it, you looking for it. I know who got it. She talk about it in every EP, you don't nobody ever be on what she be on. This is LOL with QuiQui Symone. You eat it. Life out loud.
Did you miss me?
Welcome. It is your girl, QuiQui Symone. I am in the building in the Life Out Loud with QuiQui Symone Studios. And I am so excited about this podcast today, this particular episode, because I have a wonderful and delightful guest here with me today. But first, I want to thank my listeners for coming in and tuning in with me every week as you do. Thank you for being subscribed. Thank you for always making sure that you are tuned in to the livest podcast on the planet, or at least so I think I'm a little biased. But anywho, today I want to introduce to you my guest for today. That is the wonderful, the magnificent. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a pastor, he's a chaplain, he's a bishop, he's an author, he's a college professor, he's a radio personality. I mean, my goodness, it's just going on and on. It's my daddy, y'all. It is Dr. Carl J. Logan. Say hello to the people, daddy.
Hello.
Hey, my daddy.
Hey, baby girl.
It's my daddy. Y'all heard that? I'm his baby girl. I just wanted y'all to know that. Okay. Anywho, this is my daddy, in whom I love so very much, Dr. Carl J. Logan. And daddy, I just named a whole bunch of stuff that you actually do. And I want to make sure that I do not say this incorrectly. These are not titles.
No, they're not titles.
They're work.
That's work.
That's work.
Earned. All of them are earned.
So you didn't just get online and just, just get something real quick.
No, not at all. There's a job description that goes with each one. And I had to perform the job description.
That's right. And I can say from a daughter standpoint, the father, you definitely have, how should I say it? You've performed very well. I give you a 10 out of 10.
Alrighty.
You think so? You think
enough.
you've been a 10?
If you say so, I've been a 10.
Okay. Well, that's what we're going to go with. What I say matters. What you say still matters.
Okay.
Okay, so daddy,
Yes.
I have some listeners that are listening in and they don't really know. Some of them might know who you are. Some of them may not. But I just want to make sure that I give them the opportunity to get to know a little bit about you. So with that stated, I want to ask you a couple questions here.
Okay.
First question here is, tell me about what is the best thing that you learned from your parents, from grandma and grandpa?
The best thing I've learned from my mother and my father, and before I say in terms of what it is, I have to tell you in terms, I have a stepfather.
Okay.
And he married my mother when she was at the end of her pregnancy with me. And I asked him the reason. I says, what's the reason that you married my mother and I'm not your biological son? He says, let me tell you, she was so beautiful, I was not going to let her get away. Okay, no problem. Okay. But at any rate, the best thing that I have probably learned from them is integrity.
Integrity.
Honesty. Honesty. Is what I have learned from them. I have never seen them in a situation where they had to jeopardize their integrity.
Now, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
That's extremely good because a lot of people typically don't they don't think about that. They don't think about what they do, how it impacts their kids, from what their kids watch and what their kids see. And that's a really good thing. I don't really hear honesty being mentioned a lot of times when people talk about their parents. Not to say that it isn't one thing that they don't like or got from their parents. But just for people to say, hey, the one thing that I really, really gleaned from my parents is honesty and having that integrity. So with that stated, I want to say that I think that kind of continued to trickle on down just a little bit, because that's what I believe one of the things that I got from you is making sure that I was integral. I can remember there was a time where you had told me that always to take the high road. Whenever someone, even if someone did you wrong, you always put it on yourself. And I think that really helped me in how I built and formed relationships with people. Even, apologizing even when I didn't think that I needed to apologize, or reach out to people even when I felt that people were, just trying to ignore me intentionally and things like that. I always try to take the route of, being integral and make sure that I did what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's what I got.
That's a good core value to have. And the core values are the things that guides us in life. Integrity, responsibility, love, and things like that. Those are the things that guide us. It really is. Yeah.
Having those core values definitely make a difference. And we actually have a podcast that we're going to be talking about stuff like that.
Oh. Okay.
Yes. I forgot what the title of it was, but we do have one. So those of you who are listening, listen out for that podcast. Because I know that you're going to continue to listen every single episode. So, Daddy, now you are an author, right?
Yes.
You wrote a book. So let me ask you this. What would be a title of the current chapter of your life right now? What would be the current title?
Help.
Help. We all need help, right? We all need help. So help me understand why that would be your title.
Humility. Eternal.
Okay. You need an L?
No, just it makes you weep sometimes when you're thinking about it. Life living.
Okay.
And the P is for pressure.
Yes. Tons of pressure.
Yes.
My husband has a song called Pressure.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
How do you deal with it? And when you can do that, then you get help. Because you can't attack things always. If you attack anything besides in a humility way, it never works out. And when you think about in terms of who really helps us, it's eternal. And the life that we live, will have pressure.
Okay.
So when you put all that together, you actually get help.
Okay, so that would be your current chapter for your life right now.
Yes.
Okay. I would say the current chapter in my life would be embracing me. I definitely think that would be the current chapter, because I'm just now learning how to embrace myself and understanding what it is that QuiQui wants and what QuiQui needs, and slowly getting there. But I'm definitely on that, on that process, on that path in which I haven't been. And some people get it, earlier on in life, and some people get it later on in life, of really understanding and beginning to follow that path of discovering who you are and whose you are and things of that nature. So that would be my current chapter of my life.
Okay.
Now, Daddy.
Yes.
We have this thing. Listen to this sound right here. Now that is our elephant.
Oh.
This is our elephant. On the Life Out Loud podcast, we have what's called the pink elephant. Now, I know you can't really see the elephant. Well, maybe you can, my pink elephant in the studio here.
Yeah.
But have you heard the term the elephant in the room?
Okay, yes, I've heard that term before.
Okay, so with that particular term, my elephant just happens to be pink. Because I like it loud, I like it bright, and I like it to stand out. But in the podcast, we use the term the pink elephant because we're dealing with issues that people really don't like to deal with. Things that are burning up in them that they really don't like to talk about, that they like to ignore or just leave out. And so with the pink elephant, we just really deal with real issues. We deal with perspectives. Perspectives are so very important in understanding why people do what it is that they do. And sometimes if you're narrow-minded and you don't have perspective or you don't allow for perspective to come, then what ends up happening is you shun a lot of people away. Yes. That's what you end up doing.
Indeed.
So on this podcast, we talk about real issues and we deal with perspectives, things I may agree with, things I may not agree with, but also we deal with maybe some solutions that you might be able to apply to your life. Who knows what can happen from that? So that's what we talk about here on A Life Out Loud with QuiQui Symone. And today's pink elephant is called Daddy's Girls.
All right.
Daddy's Girls.
Okay.
And it's perfect because you are right here. And I'm such a daddy's girl. I'm a daddy's girl. Right. Now, Daddy, let me ask you this. First question. What do you think are some myths what are some myths about men or about fatherhood? Like, what are some myths that you've heard, or what do you think are some myths when it comes to fatherhood?
Okay. Well, let me just before I get to that part, let me just say that I have, 3 beautiful daughters.
Okay.
2 biological and 1 stepdaughter.
Mm-hmm.
And they are wonderful.
Okay.
I mean, so when you say daddy's girls, okay,
mm-hmm.
They are just wonderful. And then, of course, I have a son.
Yes.
Brother Patrick.
Brother Patrick.
Son, and he's a father too. So, but anyways, but back to the question that you asked, what would be one of the myths that comes from fatherhood that people really get kind of confused with or not with or things like that? I think one thing in particular would be that sometimes people think that you have to be the child or the children's best friend. Okay, well, let me say that you don't have to be a child or children's best friend to be the best dad.
I agree. That's good too.
You don't have to be. Because if you think about it, a best friend can be replaced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it might be just something that people just say. My best friend, my in and out, my dog. And,
that's weird coming from you, Daddy.
My ride. Yeah, I know.
My ride or die.
Yeah, all of that.
Right.
But being a father is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that person has got some girls, they are special.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to be more than a best friend.
That's true. That is very true. That is very true.
Because you can't be replaced.
I would 100% agree with that. Fathers are so irreplaceable. I really think that when it comes to relationships with your parents, fathers in particular for girls, that's that first time that girls really know how a man is supposed to treat her. Supposed to be. Now, we all know that all fathers haven't been in, their daughters' lives, and, there's a lot of broken relationships and things of that nature. But the way that God intended for it to be is what I'm really referencing, is that girls would see how through their father, how a man is supposed to be. And I think that many times, because there's no fathers in the home, or things end up happening, to a father, like now women are having to, I can't even say that women are being mother and father, because I don't believe in that term. That's just me personally. There's no woman that can be a man. Like, that's just period, point blank. So, with that stated, I just really believe that it's very important for fathers to understand their role in their daughters' lives, because they are exposing them to how a man should be treating
Right.
them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now let me ask you this, Daddy, as we're continuing to talk about, fathers of girls, do you think that fathering girls is different than fathering boys?
Yes, I think it is different.
Okay.
It's different.
How so?
But the way that it's different is that a man or a father have to do more with the girl.
Okay.
He has to show his love, much deeper than what's shown.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is a father has to pray for that girl
Mm-hmm.
or that daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And a father has to make sure that he does not chastise in the wrong way when the daughter goes contrary to the teachings.
Mm-hmm.
That's extremely important. Is because when and girls will make mistakes. There's
Right.
no question about that.
Very true.
They will make mistakes.
I can speak to that.
And you still have to walk with them and not chastise them in a way that is going to turn them from you.
Right.
That's detrimental there. That is extremely important because if that happens, the daughter is more than likely going to, cause something to, rupture the relationship.
Okay.
And you don't want that.
Right.
So you would rather walk with your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to trying to beat her up. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm just
Right.
talking about in terms of whatever mistake that's been made.
Emotionally and things
Yes.
of that nature.
Yeah. And I've made that mistake before.
Okay. And we're going to talk about.
Okay.
We're
All
going
right.
to talk about making that mistake as a father.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of really want to transition a little bit into having people to understand the dynamics of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I am a daddy's girl. I have been from day one. I look just like you. I am your twin. All you have to do is put on a wig. Yeah, and my husband tells me that we look so much alike, but then so does everybody else. But I know this, so there is no denying me.
Yes.
So for our relationship, it has definitely we have a very, very strong bond, and all the way from the time that I was a very young girl. I want to make it clear that people understand that I have an understanding that even though I have the best dad in the world, I'm just saying, and I have the microphone, even though I've adored my dad from a child, he wasn't always in the house. And even with him not being in the house, we maintained a very strong bond that just is irreplaceable, as you said earlier. And I think that people need to understand, parents, hear me very clearly, that whenever you and the child's father does not work out, make sure that you do not allow that child to suffer from it because of your feelings toward that individual. That is not cool for that child. Allow that child to make a decision. If the father or mother doesn't want to come around, let them make that decision not to come around. But for those parents that want to be in their child's life, that really, really does hurt the child. You think you're hurting the father, but you're hurting your child by doing that. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I'm saying that to say that basically, even though daddy was not in the house for my entire childhood, now he was there in the beginning, we still maintain a really good relationship, a very strong one.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to, and these are times that are changing. You don't have to be in the house, but you have to be around the house.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by around the house is that if you're nowhere to be found at all, that's not a good thing.
Right.
But if you're around the house, that means that you come and get the child, or vice versa, and things like that. That's around the house.
Right. Right.
So that's how we have kept the relationship, is because even though me and your mom was not together, I was still around the house. I was still coming to get you and
Right.
pick you up and take you to dinner and do all kinds of things
Do
like
all
that.
and spoil me.
Yeah, that was it. So I was around the house.
Yes, Daddy was around the house. And we had such a great bond, regardless of what my parents were going through. I never doubted that my dad loved me.
Yeah.
Like, I never doubted that. And I think that that's important for kids to know how their parents truly feel about them at such a early age. And if we even fast forward to when I became a teenager, I got my first and last whooping at the age of 16 by my daddy.
That's what she said.
It was, Daddy, you only whooped me like one time. And that was because I had a hickey on my neck, and my mom called my dad and was just like, hey, come get her. Like, you need to do something with her. She done came in the house with a hickey on her neck. My mama didn't know what to do. But my daddy came and whooped me. Daddy, how did that make you feel when you whooped me?
I was hurt. I was shocked. And I think the reasoning was that we didn't talk about you having a boyfriend or a friend at all. You know, because I'm thinking that, it's, nothing is happening.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I get a phone call that says that you have a hickey on your neck, and I did the only thing that I knew that I'd seen done before.
Right.
And that was, now let me say now to all of you that's listening, this does not mean that I was beating her.
Right. He did not beat me. Let's just be clear. He did not.
She got
beat
a little
me.
spanking. She got about 3 or 4 licks. Okay.
I got more than 3 or 4 licks, but I'm just saying. He didn't beat me, though. He didn't beat me. I think for me, what hurt the most was not the actual physical spanking itself, but it was more so of the fact that it came from you.
Yeah.
Because I was like, not Daddy. Like, I was crying more so because my daddy is whooping me. Like, I would expect it from my mama, but not from my daddy. And at 16, Daddy, you waited 16 years.
I know that was a hurtful part, but
And then guess what, y'all? After he whooped me, he took me shopping.
Of course.
He took me shopping. He was crying. I was crying. He was crying while he was whooping me. I was crying while he was whooping me. And then he just said, my mama said, go ahead, take her. He packed up my bags, and we in the car crying. We both crying still after he done whooped me. And he was like, okay, come on now. What you want to go get? Let's go shopping.
Yeah, I was still crying while we was in JCPenney, so because the bill was high.
No, Daddy. But and then let's fast forward. After that, we still maintained a bond. We never lost. So let's just be clear about that. We never lost a connection. But let's fast forward to my college years. I would call my dad while I'm in college, and we having what I call powwows, which is guys and girls just chilling, eating, having conversation about different stuff. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about different things, there is no filter, and we're just talking about all kind of stuff. And a conversation comes up about, fingering. And so since I was plagued to be the Christian girl, they would ask me like, so Kiki, like, are you a virgin if you get fingered? And I was like, I really don't know the answer. So 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm having these kind of conversations with people in my apartment in college, because I would have them every other weekend, y'all. And I would just call Daddy and be like, Daddy, can you get in trouble? Like, are you still a virgin for fingering? Are you still, what happens? And y'all, let me tell y'all, my daddy would answer the phone and he would answer the question. He would answer my questions, and he wouldn't condemn me for, why are you up this late? Or why are you even asking me this question at this time?
Right.
Even though I'm sure that's probably what was in your head. Wasn't it, Daddy? It was in your head.
I take the fifth.
But he just, like, that just is a testament to how much he was always just there for me, regardless of the time, regardless of how insignificant it would have been for him. But for me, it was important because I was able to tell my my friends, like, hey, this is what my daddy said. And they're just like, what? You can call your daddy and say this? And they were just very shocked.
Yeah.
Like, I can't call my parents and say that.
Right.
They'll be like, oh, they knocking on the door 10 minutes later.
That's it.
And so I really think that because of that, like, that was also, it just continued to build. Our relationship just continued to build as I got older. And then when I became, I became even more of a young adult. One of the dark times that actually happened in our relationship, in which we didn't really have too many of those, in all honesty. But this was definitely a difficult one. And this was after I'd been divorced, and I was, as you guys have heard, my dad is a pastor. So I was going to Daddy's, the church that he pastors. And so, of course, assumption is everybody in the family go to the same church. Wherever, the family is, that's where you go. And so with him being the pastor, that makes me a PK. Yeah, I got to go ahead and I got to go to, to that church. And I was going through a lot of stuff emotionally. I was dealing with one of the biggest things I was dealing with was shame from going through a divorce and having people in the church, like, always asking me questions, trying to get in my business and tell me, oh, well, where's your husband? And is he coming back? And what is he doing? What happened? But, like, did he do something? What did he do to you? What did you do to him? Like, all these different things. And these wasn't just like people that don't know about church. These are like seasoned people. And so I just wanted to get away from all of that. So I felt that the best thing for me to do was to go ahead and leave, that particular congregation and go to another church, so that I could get healing, so I could heal emotionally. But because I was going to be leaving, I knew that was going to hurt my dad. And so that was extremely difficult because I still had family members that was like, why you ain't at your daddy church? And so that really, it put a lot of strain on our relationship, Daddy, I would say. Just because I didn't want to hurt you, and it wasn't about you. It was about everybody else that was around, and I just couldn't handle it. How did you take it?
Well, there's a couple of things that's with that. I was shocked. Well, not really shocked. I was hurt. I was cut. Anytime anybody leaves a church, for reasons that you don't think that they should be leaving, usually a pastor's cut by that.
Right.
Now, there's some folks that just leave and you don't, it's like, okay, they're gone. That's
it.
But this, that was not it with you. I had witnessed in terms of the grooming, in terms of how you had grown, and how you had been hurt, and all of that, and I just thought that you should have been there with me, to help cuddle some of that.
Right.
But I thought that, okay, she's not, so what is this gonna do? And so I was hurt. I was cut by that. It's like she doesn't want me to. She don't want to be around me anymore. She don't want to let me know in terms of what's happening with her. And other folks started saying, well, I'm not gonna go to the church now. If his own daughter won't go, I really don't want to go. Things like that. So stuff like that started happening. But for me, on the inside, it was a cut that I had never had before. Even though I had gotten a divorce, it was like, wow, this is a huge
Right. It's your baby girl.
Yeah.
Right.
And you were leading a ministry and
Mhm.
things like that. Of course, we had to move from where we were and from the church building that we
Right.
were in and stuff
Right.
like that. And the congregation that would dwindle down and things. It was just all kinds of things that was just happening.
Going on at one time.
Yeah, it was. And it's like, oh man, now this is part of it. Oh.
Right.
So I really didn't have any suffering words. Sometimes God only gives you just a moan and a groan,
Mhm.
and you have to write it out or pray it out or worship it out.
Mhm.
And that's part of what was happening with that. The only thing I think that kept me afloat was that I had the opportunity to go with you to the church that you was going to be attending,
Right.
and it seemed like they were doing okay.
Mhm.
That's what it seemed like at the time.
Right.
But going back to in terms of my feelings as a father, it was like, wow, man. So that piece had me to really grab hold of to the other two.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, well, actually three, because I think I'd been remarried then,
Right.
and it was like, wow, what can I do to keep everybody here?
Right.
Not only at the church house, but
But
in
in
our
the
own
own
house.
house.
And don't have folks around the house.
Right. That part.
But, yeah. But the idea and thought was that, oh man, so it was devastating. It was very devastating. But after a little period of time, I remember crying one night, and Patrick, he just came to me and says, Dad, God's gonna take care of her. He's gonna take care of us too. That's what you've taught us.
That is so true.
And so I'm like, okay. But it still did not remove
The hurt from
hurt.
it. Because
But-
I was saying the same thing to you. I was like, Daddy, you have molded me to be able to hear the voice of God for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And now I'm just trying to what I believed I was trying to do, and I believed that I was doing what I thought was right for me.
Right.
And
Right.
with me even telling you that it hit different
Right.
is not as received because it's from me,
Yeah.
but it took for my brother to say something along the same lines for
Yeah.
it to really register.
Well, one of the things is that I don't know if people have noticed this or not, but whenever you leave a place or situation or circumstance, in pain, when you leave while you're in pain, it's always difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But when you leave a place or a person, and there's no pain, there's just a matter of leaving, it's always acceptable.
Right, right.
But you were in pain, I was in pain, and
Yeah.
the church was in pain, everybody was in pain.
Everybody
Pain,
was in
pain.
pain. That's why you have the book, The
That's
Other
why
Side of Pain.
That's it. That's the reason why the book came out.
Well, I definitely didn't want you to feel that it was personal, but there was no way that I could not make you feel like it was not personal, because I have seen you at your lowest. I've seen you at some really high times, and you've seen me at my lowest and some high times as well. So I think because we've seen each other as in a space of lows and highs, we just kind of just said we're always going to be together doing ministry and everything together. Yeah. And it's not to even say that we still can't do,
Right.
stuff together or
Yeah.
whatever. But as far as at that particular time, I just had to remove myself from being around those type of people, in which it was causing me more hurt and more shame going to church every week and seeing and hearing and having people to approach me about things that I'm just like, it's just none of your business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the other things that I learned out of that, my takeaway from that whole aspect, not just yours, but during the period of time while you were leaving and things like that. This is something I learned that I keep today, and I hold to it. You can't make somebody else's emergency your emergency.
That's very true. That's very true.
Their 911 is their 911.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make it, yours, because it's not yours.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Now you can help around it,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but somebody else's emergency it's just not your
It's
emergency.
not yours. That's true, Daddy. That's true.
And I hold that today, and sometimes I get some phone calls that's an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's their emergency.
Right.
Does it mean I don't act on it? No, it doesn't mean that. It just simply means it may not be that type of an emergency for me
For you.
that it is for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was an emergency for you to leave because of what you were going through
Mm-hmm.
and stuff that was happening to you. That was an emergency. And I was trying to make that mine,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't need to do that.
I think that in all honesty, Daddy, what it showed great character of you to even go with me to the other church to see where I was going to be going because of your how can I put it, of you really wanting to have that solidification that I was still getting what I needed.
Yes.
And I was leaving from where it was being given,
Yeah.
but I was going somewhere where I still was going to continue to get it instead of just being somewhere where it's just kind of, woo, whatever, do whatever you want to do, and it's just a show.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate that. And we also, I shared with you some stuff about stuff that I went through in the past, like dealing with porn, being molested and, raped and all that stuff. And
Right. Yeah.
as I shared a lot, I shared not even a lot, I shared all with you of the things that I had gone through. And if some of you guys listen to other podcast episodes, you'll hear some of that stuff that I talk about a little bit more in depth. But my dad didn't know about some of it, and some of it he did. So when I finally shared it with you, Daddy, like, how did it make you feel to know that, like, I had gone through some of the things that I had gone through?
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Two things. Well, the way I felt was that I felt like I let you down because you didn't come to me on some of the things to tell me in terms of that. But even though you was trying to protect me in terms of that, but I still felt like that, man, I let her down. But then on the other hand, this is not a feeling, it's a thought. I thought that may have been the best thing because some of the things that happened to you, I don't know what I would have done to somebody.
Right.
And so that was, that was you being protective of me in terms of that. But I think that the feeling part was that, and I hold that too, that I wasn't strong enough for you to tell me that was happening to you, for me to do something about it.
Right.
That was how I felt.
And I think I felt that I thought that I had to make the decision to do that to protect you from me not being able to see you, because I had to do that before in the past,
Right.
with things that I dealt with my mom. And I just really didn't want that to happen. I didn't want you to end up doing something that would cause us to be separated even more to where now I got to sign in a piece of paper just to go see you, So I thought that was the right thing to do, but it definitely did. It was a release for me to be able to tell you.
Right.
And I was glad and happy because you have always been that person where I just felt like, okay, if I can call my daddy and ask him about fingering, and I can ask my daddy about anything, you know what I'm saying? And so I really just, that was something that kind of weighed more on me because I felt like I had to take that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, God is strategic. He knows exactly what he's doing and what he allows to happen, and it just helps us get better. So, and so even more as an adult now, I can definitely say have watched you for such a long time, being daddy in every stage from childhood up until now, and seeing the things that you've gone through, that you've endured. I've just gained so much respect for you. and you're just such a wise person. I've watched people, slander you and say things about you, and you still not retaliate. You still not go back against people. You still show the love of God. And I know that that's very difficult as an individual, just period. But when you're doing it in front of your children, that's a whole different story. And so those are the types of things that I saw that made me say, oh, I just love my daddy, regardless of how people treat him or have treated him. He still always takes the high road. And that's something that you taught me, is to take ownership. Even though sometimes people don't treat you right, you take ownership and you still treat them well, and you still have that integrity. So now, Daddy, I want to ask you a question about, how you fathered me. As we just shared, there were rough patches, and we had some good things too, that happened. Would there be anything different that you would do in fathering me then? And I'm going to have you to answer that question, but I'm going to have you to answer that question after we come back from our artist spotlight. And our artist spotlight is going to be the one and only Big Fil.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Girl, you are the baddest. Never been an average. Don't get caught up in status or expensive habits. Though you say it's cool to get, but you ain't gotta have it. You already established. That's why you the baddest. Yeah. Shorty, I see you tryna get your mind right. See you tryna build that wealth. See you tryna get that bag. When you get it in good health. Hey, when it's trouble you facing. Whenever I see your frustration, I admire your patience. Baby, you never been basic. I get so much knowledge from you. Sometimes I try not to show it. That be my pride. Something authentic inside. The truth is I'm trying not to blow it. You don't run and hide. Ready for all of the smoke. Be ready for all of them folk. Be ready to ride. You ain't got time. Turn around and you let it all go, and I'm never surprised by your strength, and by your wisdom. Ooh, girl, your swag right. Ooh, girl, don't kill them. How can I hate you? Yeah, I wanna elevate you. This for the culture. It's time to celebrate you. Hey, girl, you are the baddest. Never been an average. Don't get caught up in status or expensive habits. Though you say it's cool to get, but you ain't gotta have it. You already established. That's why you the baddest. Girl, you are the baddest. Bad. That's why you the baddest. Bad. That's why you the baddest. Clap emojis for the ladies. You a real one. SMHs when we try to make you feel dumb. Too smart for a dope girl, cause you are so intelligent. Haters don't want you to shine, but baby, they are so irrelevant. You ain't a 9 to 5, you a 9 to 9, not 12 but 24. Always keep it 100. But girl, I'ma give you my 50 more. Who they checking, boo? They ain't checking you. When you walk through, we salute, cause you the truth. Girl, you are the baddest. Never been an average. Don't get caught up in status or expensive habits. Though you say it's cool to get, but you ain't gotta have it. You already established. That's why you the baddest. Girl, you are the baddest. Bad. That's why you the baddest. That's why you the baddest. Bad. That's why you the baddest.
And that was the one and only Big Fil with Bad. I absolutely love that song. Daddy, did you like that song?
I like that.
I love that song because he was just really talking about, about how bad females are. She bad.
Yes.
Bad.
Need a professional logo for your brand?
I
use the
really
new
don't
Wix
even need
logo maker to
try
create
sing.
one.
That would not be good for me or for our listeners whatsoever. So, anywho, Daddy.
Yes.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna go back into what we were just talking about, our pink elephant. And I just asked you just a moment ago, did you think that there was something that you could have done differently when you were fathering me? Do you even think that? Is there something that you could have done differently?
Yeah, there's probably quite a few things I could have done differently, but the major thing is that, well, let me say this before I get into that. I enjoyed our relationship in terms of while you were growing up. I don't think I missed in terms of that much with our relationship in terms of how we communicated and things like that. I think that's really, really solid.
Okay.
That's solid. But one of the things that I think that I probably could have made better if I had taken it out of my life or not even started to do it, and that was the substance abuse.
Okay.
Substance abuse never turns out good.
Right.
Never. I have yet to see anybody or anyone actually that engaged really turn out to be just marvelous. I've yet to see it.
Okay. And when you say that, are you saying that while they're doing
They're doing it.
Okay.
Not afterwards.
Not after. Okay, gotcha.
My story is afterwards. But while they're doing it.
Okay.
It almost never.
It tears up families.
And it tears up the person. It tears up the character of the person. It tears up the values, the core values of a person.
Right.
It's wacky. It's not a good mix for anything. I promise you, when any of that is involved, it's a matter of time before it crashes.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think that when you were on substance abuse, mommy was very protective of me in making sure that, hey, he's doing that right now, so you're not really able to see him. But once you did get off of it, you ended up just, saying, hey, I'm in a halfway house, I'm doing this. You made every attempt to make sure that you were there while
right.
you were going through your rehabilitation process.
Right.
And so I've just always had that knowledge that my daddy loves me. Like, regardless of what he's going through, my daddy loves me. So nothing else really mattered, honestly. Like, it was just like, okay, daddy's sick. And that's it. He just sick. And now, of course, my mom would think differently. you know, she would definitely think differently. But totally. from the child standpoint, I would just say, okay, he's just sick. And that doesn't change my relationship with them. So what do you think, Daddy, that men probably need to know mostly when it comes to fatherhood?
Mostly is to make sure that you carry out your responsibilities.
Okay. Can you elaborate just a little bit?
Being responsible for what happens in the child's life or your daughter's life is extremely important. Responsibility simply means that not only be there, not only show up, but to be involved.
Right.
And be involved in such a way that that the child or your daughter can really, really see and understand that even if it's just a little bit, take part.
Be there.
Be there, and no matter what happens, and you may have to miss a birthday or two, okay, but make up for it.
Right. Just make sure that you do everything in your power to be a part of their life.
Yeah, because if you got to work like I did, there were some birthdays that I probably missed, but God knows that when I would go out of town, I would bring everybody a hat back or a cap, whatever city, and that would smooth over some of it, of course. But,
right.
But the idea and thought was to make sure that, and you'll know when you're not doing your responsibilities. It'll show up. And trust me, the family will let you know when you're not doing your part. That's true.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Responsibility is everything. I know that we hear it, most of the time, but it's very important.
I definitely agree with that. It's very important that you make sure that you spend time with your kids. My pastor out here in Orlando, Pastor William McDowell, I'm sorry, not William McDowell. That is my pastor. Shout out to Deeper Fellowship though. But Pastor Mike Todd from Transformation Church, he has said the greatest attacks on fatherhood and marriages. And I really believe that. I really believe that many fathers that are missing from the home, it really changes the trajectory of the family, of that household when they're not there. That's a big missing piece, the missing puzzle piece, because no matter how independent a lady can get, no matter how much of a boss she is, no matter how much she can do, you still cannot replace a father. Like, it's just not possible. Like, in the sense of what God has created for man and woman to do. So for those people who just really say, you know, I'm the mother and the father, like, I disagree with that statement. You cannot be a father. You can take on the role of doing things. However, it does not make you become that man. Yes, because there's just a bond that I got with you that I didn't get with my mom, and vice versa. Like, there's a bond I had with her that I just don't have with you, and it doesn't make it better or worse. It just is different. And so there's no way that a man or a woman can be both of those things, in my opinion.
I think that's a good way of looking at that, because, you know, being a father, sometimes you may have to do some things that you think that only women can do. Mm-hmm. And there are some things that only women can do. That's not what I'm saying. But I remember, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm getting ready to say something that I don't know if you remember or not.
Okay.
And it didn't mean I was the opposite sex. It just simply meant that was a time that I needed to do it. When we were in San Mateo, California.
Okay.
And I used to come and get you, you know, every weekend. Mm-hmm. And we'd go to church. Mm-hmm. Well, somebody had to comb your hair.
Ooh, y'all do not want to know what my hair looked like at that point in time in life.
Well, you know, you may say that was female's responsibility, but I had to do it because it was just she and I. And
oh my
to go
goodness.
to church, I would hook her up
to his best ability. Let's just say that, to his best ability. I would definitely say it was not to the caliber of mommy. And I was with the, you know, the lopsided ponytails or whatever. So, but he did what he needed to do while I was there with him.
Responsibilities, okay?
And he took the time to make my hair the way that it was. So, and Daddy, you taught me how to drive too.
That's what I'm saying.
In that blue, that candy blue Mercedes that you had that made all of the noise in the world, with that big muffler.
Yeah, we had a muffler we didn't have a muffler. That's what it was.
It just, goodness gracious. But it's those things. That's what kids tend to remember, are the memories. And that's how you create the bond. You don't create the bond by just saying, you know, and I'm not taking away from the financial standpoint, but a child needs to know that they are loved from their father.
First.
Yes, they need to know that they're loved.
Yeah, and that's the
money can't replace that.
Right. That's a responsibility. We have the responsibility to make sure that that you realize in terms that you're loved by your father.
Right.
And I had the pleasure of actually teaching all of my children how to drive. Yes. All of them had to sit in my lap as little ones driving.
I remember sitting in the lap.
Patrick, oh my God. Brittany, oh my Lord. Vicky, oh Jesus.
I guess we all were a little something different to deal with. But I enjoyed it. But those were the times that, you know, like I said, kids tend to remember the memories. They don't remember how much money you gave them. They remember how you loved them and how you were there for them. Yeah. And I think that that's what is missing a lot, you know, in society right now for fathers.
Well, remember now, I'll tell you what my father told me in terms about responsibility and finances.
What did he tell you?
He said that money is not everything; it's all things.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe Daddy. I don't know if Granddaddy was just but I can't see Granddaddy saying that.
Well, he said try to do something without it.
This true. This is true. This is true. This is so true. I really I enjoyed all those times that I had with you. And I'm thankful that I have the time now for my listeners to hear that I am on here on my podcast with my daddy. My daddy,
Mm-hmm.
the best daddy in the world, just FYI. Again, I have the mic. So, I want to tell you, Daddy, that I love you and I really appreciate you being on here. So I just want to take this opportunity and now kind of transition to a little bit of what we call
Corny Joke of the Day.
the corny joke of the day, Daddy.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so every week we have a corny joke of the day. And this week, the corny joke of the day is, what did the cake say to the fork? What did the cake say to the fork? He said, or do you know, Daddy?
Poke me? I don't know.
No, he said, the cake said to the fork, you want a piece of me? Now, I know that I'm super corny, y'all. Some of y'all probably out there listening like, did she just say that? Like, did she really just say that?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I get my corny jokeness sense of humor from my daddy.
Yes.
Daddy, do you have a corny joke for me today?
Yes, I have a corny joke for you.
Okay, so tell me what you got.
Okay.
Let me see.
There was about an 18-year-old boy that had just got his driver's license, and he had been with his friends, and so he got in his car and he left. He was on his way home, and while he was on his way home, the police stopped him. And once the police stopped him, the police came to the window and said, can I, he asked a question, can you let me see your license? So the little boy, the 18-year-old, he gave the police officer his license, and the police looked at it, and he says, hey, what's in that cup that's over there in the middle there? He said, the cup? He said, oh, that's water. He said, the police officer, do you mind if I smell it? And the 18-year-old says, oh, no problem. Here it is right here. So the police officer got the cup, and he sniffed it. He said, it smells like wine to me. And then the boy says, oh, my God, Jesus turned water into wine.
No, and no. No, and no. Daddy, no. Y'all heard that?
I'm just saying.
Y'all heard this? So, like, my daddy okay, so I see why I'm so corny. I see why I'm so corny. Because of my daddy. That's the reason why.
Okay.
Now, Daddy.
Yes.
Okay, I really appreciate me inheriting that corny jokeness. Mm-hmm. But in all seriousness, there is actually a poem called Daddy's Girl that I wanted to read to you, that on this particular episode, as we celebrate, our relationship, we celebrate our bond. I think that I would like to share this with the world. Okay. So it's called Daddy's Girl. It says, he lifted me and he held me up to him. He forgave me every time I didn't listen. He welcomed me when I thought it was cool to run away. He instructed me when I didn't know how to pray. He balanced me when I was unsteady on my feet. He guided me when I went down the wrong street. He embraced me whenever I had a rough day. He listened to me when I had a lot to say. He walked with me when I was to say goodbye. He hid his tears when he sometimes very badly wanted to cry. He's there for me like no one else in this world. He really, really loves me because he's my daddy and I'm his girl.
Wow. Beautiful.
Oh, daddy.
Thank you.
It's my daddy.
Thank you.
It's my
Thank
daddy.
you.
It's
Thank
my
you.
daddy.
Alrighty.
So, you know how they say, give them their flowers while they still living?
Yeah.
And that's what I want you to know.
Well, I ain't going nowhere for a while, so.
Well, praise the Lord for that. I'm so thankful for that. I definitely want to make sure that I let you know how much I love you, but I also want our listeners to really understand that in every relationship that parents have with their kids, just to make sure that you understand the value of your role in your child's life. And because we're talking about fathers today, I really want you to have an opportunity to hear how my father and how, you know, even through challenging times of him going through his personal issues, and then, you know, me growing up seeing some of that, and then how things eventually ended up happening in my personal life. Our relationship never changed. It never changed. Yeah. Now, we went through rough times when I got older, and separated a little bit, as far as like maybe not talking for like, well, I don't know, like 3 days, something like that. But I just want you guys to understand, like, it was so much of a bond there. And I think that's the reason why I just love my daddy so much, and I will forever be a daddy's girl. So I thank you, Daddy, so much. Thank you, Daddy.
Yes. Thank you, baby.
I love you.
I love you too.
Now, Daddy, we mentioned earlier that you were an author, and you have a book called The Other Side of Pain. Right. Quickly tell us where they can purchase that book at.
Okay, here's where you can purchase the book. You can go on to Amazon and you can do the ebook. And all you have to do is type in just the author's name, Carl Logan, and it's on Kindle, and you can read it online there.
Audio.
Yes, or you can email me, and I will send you a signed copy. And my email address is cjlogan, 5 @bellsouth.net. And if you email me and request a book, and I'll send you a copy. I'll send you back in terms of the cost of it. I think it's like $6.95 or something like that. But anyways, we'll make sure that you get a copy. I would encourage you to read it. It's a good read, and it gives some life stories, and it's kind of weaved in with scriptures and things like that. So I would say try to get a copy and read it.
And it's a very easy read, too.
It's a really easy read. It came from the depths of my heart. And when I was going through this, one of the ways that the Lord let me out, and that was to write it out. So.
That's awesome, Daddy.
Already.
That's awesome, my daddy. Anywho, I'm so thankful that my listeners were able to hear this particular episode. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to this episode of Life Out Loud with QuiQui Symone. Make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. That is LOL with QuiQui Symone. You can subscribe on Podomatic as well to listen to the podcast. Follow me on IG and Facebook. That's QuiQui Symone, QuiQuiSymone. And we definitely appreciate you taking the time to listen. We love you. And as always, make sure that you are living your best life.
Yes.
And we out.
I know you want it, you looking for it.